today I'm going to be talking about one of my now favourite reads of 2016, A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I picked up this book the day after it was released in stores because I wanted to get it on the day it was released, but I had uni and so the bookstores were closed by the time I got there, which was super sad. So I picked it up the day after, and it's been about a week since then because, I mean, it's such a big book. Like, seriously, I was standing in the bookstore and the book was out like this, and I was expecting it to be the same size as A Court of Thorns and Roses. I was expecting it to be like this big, and then of course, no, it's like 640 pages. It's a very long book, but it was so worth it. So last night I had about 140 pages left and it was 10:30 and I sort of went, can I smash out those last 140 pages? Yes, of course I can. So I was sitting in bed last night and I was smashing them out and I was just constantly being like, oh my god, what is happening? Because the last 140 pages, for those of you who have read the book or for those of you who haven't, are super like intense, and I have no words to describe basically how I'm feeling about this, and I didn't have any words last night either.
I just finished reading A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, and I have no words really to describe how I'm feeling. I smashed out the last 100 pages and it was beautiful and amazing, and I cannot wait for the next one. I need to know what happens next. Oh my god. What? Just wow. Just, oh my god.
So for those of you who don't know, A Court of Mist and Fury is the sequel to Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's a beautiful book and an amazing series. I definitely recommend to everyone to go and pick it up, although in saying that though, definitely more recommend for older readers. This book in particular has some pretty steamy scenes every now and then between Feyre and some of our favourite male characters in the book, so just keep that in mind. The book is also the second in a trilogy, so there's going to be one more book to go, and I can't wait for the next one, but I think it doesn't come out until like May next year because that's when this one came out and when the first one came out, and I can't wait till May to find out what happens next. Yeah! So this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so don't worry if you haven't yet read the book. I won't be spoiling any of the major plot points or developments that happen. There will be spoilers for A Court of Thorns and Roses, so if you haven't read that one, I recommend you go and read that book first, then read this one, then come back and watch the review. So when we left Feyre at the end of A Court of Thorns and Roses, she had just saved Tamlin from Amarantha under the mountain, and she had just been sort of reborn as a High Fae. So she is now immortal, she's now fairy, and she's feeling all these conflicting emotions. She doesn't really know how to feel about all this. So this book sort of picks up 3 months-ish later. She's been living in the Spring Court with Tamlin, but the threat of her bargain with Rhysand still stands, so she's always got that sort of in the back of her mind, like, when's he gonna come take me away, and that sort of stuff. So throughout the course of the book, she spends some time with Tamlin and she spends some time with Rhys, and she really needs to sort of go back and come to terms with what's happened to her, come to terms with her gifts that she's now received, and also she's being pulled further and further into this coming war that obviously Highburn is threatening to do on Prithian. That wasn't very good, but I'm sorry, I'll figure it out. So Sarah's writing style in this book was a very good one. So the plot sort of really flowed easily. She has very descriptive language, so I found myself always really knowing exactly what it was that Feyre was looking at the time, knowing exactly how Feyre was feeling. The book is written in first person point of view, which does mean that you don't really get to see a lot into other characters' sort of perspectives, so you don't really know a lot about what they're thinking. And I'm not usually a fan of first person point of view novels, but this one does it really well, and so you know a lot about Feyre, and she's going through a lot of stuff, you guys, like a lot of stuff. Despite the fact that the book is 640 pages long, I found that if I'd really wanted to, I could have gotten it finished in only a couple of days because it was very, you know, it sort of flowed on from each other really well. The pacing was great, so there wasn't too many dull moments like where you sort of went, oh, why is nothing happening? And the action definitely sort of picks up almost straight away. You get a little bit of Feyre at the beginning, and you sort of see where she's at after the events of A Court of Thorns and Roses, but now the majority of the book is sort of set somewhere different, and you get to see a lot more of Prithian, and it's a really nice, big but nice novel. Sarah J. Maas is a genius with what she does. I mean, her world building in this was just phenomenal. So in the last book we saw a lot of the Spring Court, we saw a bit of the human lands, and we saw of course Under the Mountain. But in this book we get to see a lot more of Prithian. So we get to see again the human realm, we get to see the Spring Court again, but we also get to go places like the Night Court, the Summer Court, and because of how much of this world that we got to see, I fell in love with it. You know, I fell in love with it after after reading the first book and seeing the Spring Court, and it was just beautiful and there was so much to think about. But seeing this book, especially seeing the Night Court was just, her description of the Night Court was phenomenal. I read it and was just like, oh my goodness, like I need to go to the Night Court because it is just so beautiful in her description, and I loved it so much. And of course I really liked the characters that we met there, so we got to meet some new characters in this book, so it wasn't just Lucian and Tamlin and Alice. Yeah, so we got to meet some new characters. Feyre made new friends, which is awesome because Feyre she's not the best at making friends, so seeing her make friends in this book was really awesome. And I really don't have the right words to express how I'm feeling right now because this book was just so good. So like I mentioned before, we got to meet some new characters in this book as well as some old returning characters. So obviously there's Feyre, who is the narrator of the novel, and in this book she is really messed up. Like, I mean, super messed up. She's got some real deep psychological issues after what happened to her under the mountain, and honestly I don't really blame her considering what she went through at the end of the last book. Like, and then of course being turned into a fairy and everything, and it's just sort of like, that's a lot of stuff for one person to deal with. So I don't blame her for having like a serious mental breakdown between books. Seriously, I would probably have a mental breakdown too. And we also got to see some of our favourite Spring Court characters again. We got to see Tamlin and we got to see Lucian, but obviously they're no longer wearing their masks, so we get to see them in all their beautiful glory. And I really love Lucian. I think he's a great character. He's like probably one of my favorites. I didn't like him as much in this book as I did in the first one. In fact, I didn't like Tamlin at all in this book. Like, I enjoyed him in the first one, but I didn't enjoy him at all in this book. Not even a little bit did I like him in this book. We also, in the Spring Court, got to meet a new character, Ianthe, which is how I'm going to say her name, despite the fact that it's probably going to be wrong. And she is a high priestess who Feyre spends all of her time with. I didn't like Ianthe at all, but I don't think you were supposed to like her, so I have no problem saying that she's an awful character. Also returning from A Court of Thorns and Roses, we have Rhysand, who is the High Lord of Night Court, and he is just, if there is like a category somewhere for like fictional boys that I want to be my boyfriend, Rhys is like at the top of that list. I love him. I loved him in the first book, despite the fact that you probably weren't supposed to love him in that book. He was more sort of the anti-hero bad boy in that book, but in this book I just spent the whole time being like, oh Rhys, oh my god, I love you so much. You're just so beautiful and exactly what Feyre needs right now. And so yeah, I was pretty hardcore Rhys fan all the way through this book. Even when he was doing things that like were really annoying, it's like, no, you are exactly who I would want as a boyfriend. So we also got to meet other new characters in the Winter Court. We got to meet characters such as Asriel, Cassian, Amren, and more. They are part of Rhys's inner circle and are very intriguing and exciting characters, and the book makes you fall in love with them, and I did. Even Amren, who is not the easiest person to get to know, if Feyre is to be believed. Obviously, they hinted at a love triangle at the end of A Court of Thorns and Roses when we first met Rhys, and of course Feyre was trying to rescue Tamlin. And in this book, the love triangle definitely comes to head, and there are some parts of it that I'm not really going to go into because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but there were parts of it where I just sat there and looked at the book and just went, yeah, what? And that's why I'm telling everyone to read this book. Like seriously, I have been on Facebook, I've been on Twitter, I've been talking to my mum, I've just been like, you need to read this book, please, because at the moment I don't have any friends who read the book, so I literally have no one to talk to about it, and it's killing me a little bit inside that I just can't talk about it with anyone because it was so good. Normally I'm not a huge fan of romances that completely overshadow the bigger plot, but Sarah has managed to do this in such a way that although the romance is definitely sort of the core part of the story, you don't really see it as that, and you're always seeing Feyre as doing something to help her city, you know, doing something to save Prythian, doing something to defeat the King of Highburn. And the fact that they've managed to put this love triangle in the middle and just have it so compelling and so entertaining and so heart-wrenching is just incredible and amazing, and I'm just so thankful that I read this book when I did, because although in saying that though, one of my friends was sort of like, yeah, see, this is why I wait until series are finished when I want to read them, because then I don't have to wait in agony like you. And yeah, it's a bad thing because the book ends on a pretty nasty cliffhanger. Well, it's not that well. Yeah, it's a cliffhanger, and it's one that I'm not happy. I'm just like, As for the plot of this book, the plot is definitely not exactly what I was expecting. So obviously the first book was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so I wasn't really sure how that was going to transfer into the second book, since obviously by the end of A Court of Thorns and Roses, basically we've finished the Beauty and the Beast storyline, and this one wasn't so much a fairy tale retelling, it was more just a continuation of that story, although we did have sort of a Hansel and Gretel homage in this one, which I thought was really cool. I was reading that one actually in my drama lecture, and I was telling my friend about it, and she's like, that sounds like Hansel and Gretel, and I'm like, I know, it's so good. Despite the fact that the plot wasn't what I was expecting, I found myself really, really engrossed in it. So obviously we knew at the end of A Court of Thorns and Roses that although Amarantha was dead, the King of Hybern obviously was going to keep trying to, you know, take over Prithian and enslave the human race again, which, not cool, dude. Okay, slavery, not cool. But I wasn't really sure where the plot was going to go. Obviously Feyre was still at the Spring Court, and I didn't really know how that was going to fit in with anything. So by the beginning of the book, when Feyre sort of goes to the Night Court to uphold her end of the bargain with Rhys, I was pleasantly surprised with sort of how that all happened. And also I was really surprised and really intrigued by the way that Sarah managed to twist how I was feeling about certain characters, particularly characters in the Spring Court, and just completely turn them around on themselves. So like I said, I loved certain characters in the Spring Court in A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I honestly cannot stand them in A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm just gonna close my door because Mum and Dad just got home. Yes?
Oh, you're filming. Sorry.
It's okay, I'd already stopped because I heard you guys had come home.
Oh, you're doing the Court of...
Mum, don't even, unless you're going to read this book, don't even talk to me about it, okay? I smashed out the last 140 pages last night, and oh my god.
Nice.
Obviously, as I said before, the book does end on a bit of a cliffhanger, and pretty much the oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh moment happens at about page 520-ish. I would say. So I knew I was getting closer, and obviously there's a booktuber who had read the book, and she'd posted on Goodreads that at about page 560 or something, she was like, holy crap. So I knew that something big was coming, so I sort of was reading it. I was very apprehensive when I was reading it, knowing that the book was, you know, there was only like 100 pages left. I was like, something has to happen, and then there was only 60 pages left, and like, something has to happen, and then it did. I was reading it going, okay, this is big, like, this is huge, and then it sort of kept going, and then I was just screaming. I was like, no, this can't happen, this cannot happen, like, I refuse to let this be the last thing that I read. And then by the last page, I was just like, I'm done. All in all, I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars for being just the most brilliant, amazing, one of my favourite reads of 2016. Easily just shot right up there, right next to Aurelia. It's just literally they are tied for my favourite book of 2016 so far. So for anyone who is a fan of fantasy and a fan of Beauty and the Beast and just a fan of beautiful romances and just a fan of books in general, this is definitely one that I think you should all pick up. But again, mature age readers only, steamy scenes. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you liked my review, or more accurately liked me fangirling out in front of a camera, be sure to like this video. Let me know in the comments below if you have read A Court of Mist and Fury and tell me what you thought. If you haven't read it yet, tell me what part you are most looking forward to. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Stay random. Bye.